Maybe if you've got a really good relationship with your mom and dad, then they could be wonderful co-signers, guarantors on that first place that you're going to be renting or buying.
Or buying.
We are proud to introduce the R&B Real Estate Show.
There you go. Here we are.
I think we first started talking about this a couple of years ago, and now we're knee deep into it, helping you find your way home.
Perfect. Well, I would say toe deep into it. We got a long way to go, but
we really do.
We'll continue down the road. Today we're going to be chatting about renting, tenancy, leasing properties, getting it out, as you said, leaving the nest.
So you're thinking about moving out. Now, first of all, don't move out. Stay home, save for a down payment. You got mom's good home cooking, getting your laundry done, put your money in the bank. So first rule, don't move out until you have to. There's cheese at home, all the reasons you don't need to leave. Okay? That's your first
points.
Those
are really good points. I didn't think about it. I was rather anxious, I wasn't the guy that was at 18 or 17 or something like that to leave. But at the same time, I was pretty much ready to spread my wings well ahead of when I was actually ready.
Well, you're a mover and shaker, and you've done very well for yourself. And, you had a good kick in the rear end to get yourself going, right? So,
well, thank you very much. I've got a great partner that is, we've done it together. I wouldn't be where I am now without my partner, without Lisa.
Shout out to your partner.
Lisa Roach on the real estate team, best real estate agent in Milton by far.
There you go. And also an amazing wife. And you're lucky to be married to your best friend as well, too.
Absolutely. Thank you. But yeah, you made some good points there, right? Don't move out, don't leave home, right? I got some clients right now that they're anxious, still living at home, and trying to buy their first home. But most importantly, like you touched on there, they've been saving and they've been saving in this crazy market. Right. When it really took off, they had to take a step back because it took off too quick. But they were able to buckle down and just save and increase that income, that down payment, so that they could at least kind of get back into the game. Right. You're right. If you're out there shelling out, geez, think of what rents are right now, 18, 2,000.
I've heard about we've both heard this many times about how we feel sorry for people buying their first home, right? You could be talking to your grandma, you could be talking to your neighbor, you could be talking to your mom's friend, whoever the heck it is. A lot of people say, I feel so sorry for that next generation for buying their first home.
Right.
And the God honest truth is, can you really outsave the markets right now with with inflation and how quickly home prices are going up? If you get caught in that trap of renting and then needing to save on top of that for a down payment while you're renting, it's a horrible question to ask, but are you ever going to be able to afford to buy a home?
It's true. Especially if you get into the position where you've been renting for a couple of years and then you have kids.
Yeah.
Right. We've got some clients that have been renting for easily 10 years. And there's no end in sight. There's no ability to they've got 3 kids now, working, doing the 9 to 5, trying to, raise 3 kids and keep up with rent. And then you're going to save a substantial down payment.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's challenging, right?
Before we dig deeper into the renting, I'm going to give a couple spin-off ideas for people out there that are looking at maybe wanting to buy and not knowing how the heck they can, right?
Yeah, for sure.
You could potentially buy a home with one of your siblings. You could buy it with a friend. You could maybe take a loan from a relative. There's many different ways to try and there's creative ways of getting down payments as well too.
Yeah,
So,
sorry. When you say a loan from relatives, you really mean a gift from a parent, right?
well, that is one option. Another could be, a legal document where you've owed money and you're paying it back on some terms, which is, lines of credit out there are pretty reasonable, but
Yeah.
that wouldn't allow you to necessarily do a down payment because that would show against your earnings, right? So,
Yeah. So from a mortgage perspective,
yes, a gift from your parents would be ideal.
yeah, a gift from the parents, with a letter stating this is a gift and it is not repayable, is as good as your own down payment. However, if there's money borrowed, then that's repayable and is included in your debt servicing ratios. Not to chime in there and cut you off, but I wanted to touch on that before we move too far along, and I forgot.
It could have been some form of goodwill gift, but I concur and I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah.
No, but so those are just a couple ways you could be creative. You could buy, like I hear of a lot of two couples that are buying a home together. It's a launching pad for an opportunity to build equity versus helping somebody else build equity, right? Like the second you move into someone else's property, hopefully there's no additional overhead like with utilities or things like that. But a lot of the times there's a lot of additional costs on top of just your rent, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so a couple other, strategic or creative ways of, there's a handful of people out there, or a few handfuls of people rather, that have, great credit, great income, but just haven't gotten the opportunity to save the down payment yet. There are a few programs out there. Talk to, a very experienced and qualified mortgage broker can lead you down the right direction. But there's some programs out there that still exist where you can borrow the down payment and have that down payment added into your debt service ratios, which will, it's going to be a higher interest rate. But keep in mind, geez, money is free right now. It's like free money. Like we've touched on this before, but money is so cheap. So, if all your friends are getting 1.5% and you're paying 3%, and you're like, well, no, I'm not going to do it. It's 3%. It's too expensive. Oh my gosh. Like, no, it's free money. I would take a 3% mortgage all day long. Right. Get in the market. But, anyways, you see, you're going to pay a little bit higher interest rate on it. But it gets you into the place, gets you into the property. Right. And then there's some other ones where there's cash back mortgages. Right. And those will be probably 5%. But again, 5% is still below that 6.25 is like the 25-year average. Right. Mm-hmm. So it's still affordable. It's still a relatively inexpensive mortgage, right?
I think the big thing that we always hear, like, and we've touched on it, like, there's a lot of programs out there. There are governments, they're doing some incentives right now too that you can, but a lot of people don't have that down payment. But if you do have savings and that could go towards your down payment, it's going to be very, very hard to outsave the market that you're currently in. I touched on that at the beginning of the show, but just to give you an idea, let's just use the number $2,000 a month that you're renting for. Mm-hmm. And let's say you're staying in a place for 1 or 2 years. That could be, $25,000 to $50,000 just in your rental income. Right. And then by the time the markets are going up, say you're looking at buying your first condo, a 1-bedroom condo, that place could have gone up 40, 50 plus thousand over that period, if not sooner. So you'd be out of equity anywhere from 50 to 100,000, depending on how long you're renting for. And it is a tough trap. We can talk about now, like, kind of what you need if you are planning on renting. If you do decide you're going to rent, then let's prepare you for what you're going to need for renting.
Yeah, for sure. I like how we qualify, don't rent, right? If you can help it at all, don't rent. Save your money, do whatever you can. But
that's good advice, right? Like, let's keep it real. Building equity, like, okay, let's say so you buy a place for 2-3 years and you don't like it, and you decide you don't want to be an owner, you want to be a renter. Well, guess what? You tried it for 2-3 years and you've probably built 100,000 plus in equity. Well, that's a good nest egg to be sitting on now for renting.
Right.
And at least you tried it, and you don't like home ownership.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say that's way better advice for someone than to say, oh, just keep renting and keep renting. Don't try home ownership. But it's what you know. And sometimes it gets passed on from generation to generation, and you just do what you know, right? So this is different. We're talking dollars and cents. What makes the most sense, right? For people starting out. And if you don't know any better, then please take our advice.
Or at least consider the advice. Yeah. Yeah. So some great things. So assuming you can't buy something, you got nowhere to stay, you got to rent, right? You gotta have something to do. In order to prepare yourself to be a good tenant applicant, right? Make sure you've got good credit. A lot of people kind of forget about that. I know that, like, when I came out of university, the debt that I had, the credit score was atrocious. Of course, they pump you full of student loans and free, get this free t-shirt if you get this credit card and all that kind of crap, right? So my credit wasn't great, but you know what? Be cognizant of it, and it will improve relatively quickly if you just take the time to go find out what your credit score is, and then B, say, okay, well, where and why is my credit score bad? Assuming it's bad, or not great. Where can I improve it? And so if you're bumping up your credit score, like, listen, you got, you're a landlord and you have, 3 or 4 applicants, and you've got credit scores of like 580, 600, et cetera, whatever. And then you come along with a 720 beacon score, who shines, right? You're obviously showing that you're responsible with your money, and, and you're going to more than likely be responsible with paying your rent, right? And so landlords are looking for that.
Another thing here too, guys. I mean, Andrew's talking about obviously credit. A lot of you might not even have credit, right? So you could be brand new to the country. You could just have been at home and never really had a credit card, or really never had to have credit before. So, I mean, maybe we can touch on a couple ways in which to develop good credit, right? I think a credit card is definitely one way.
Yeah, for sure. A necessary evil, I would say, in our society.
It is, right? Like you kind of need to have a credit card to develop a credit score of some capacity, right?
Yeah.
Obviously you want to be putting it towards, okay, assets and liabilities is a completely different conversation, but if you wanted to be putting it towards things that you're paying down, so your phone, your vehicle, right? So you're making controlled payments and you're showing good habits. I think a good thing with credit is that you're showing good habits, and that you're not getting in over your head. You're consistently paying down your credit card and putting yourself in a good situation where financial institutions will look at your consistency and your behavioral studies, your scores.
Absolutely. And your credit score is made up of, 5 different factors. And one of those factors is the type of credit that you have. So having revolving credit, like a credit score or an open line of credit, where you pay it back, you can borrow, you pay it back, you can borrow, like a credit card is open line, it's an open credit source, versus an installment loan, like a student loan or a car payment. They reflect on your credit score differently, right? So something that requires more control, like an open line of credit, a credit card, or an open line of credit, is more will show more favorably than an installment loan, like a student loan or a line or a car payment, et cetera, right? So it's important to have. And then when you pull your credit, as a landlord or as a mortgage broker, as I used to be in my previous life, when you pull that credit and all you see is, a Bell bill, and that's it. It's like, what am I missing here? What's being hidden? What else is there? Because people don't just live off of a Bell bill, right? So when someone's like, no, I pay cash for everything, it just, I'm not saying it's impossible, and I'm not saying that I didn't necessarily believe them, but at the same time, it kind of raises some red flags a little bit. People want to see, lenders want to see a credit history. They want to see that you can repay this loan, right? on time, regularly, right, et cetera. So having that, like you said, establishing that credit through a line of credit or specifically a credit card, easy to get. Every bank will be tripping over themselves to give you a line of credit or give you a credit card, sorry, at 20% interest, right? So it's not going to be hard to get. And sometimes you might have to, is again, like you said, if you're new to the country or you're very young. My first one, my second one, I should say, I had to put $500 down to get a $500 credit card. And I can't remember, after 3 months, 6 months, a year, whatever it was, I got that $500 back. Once I showed that I was able to continually repay that. But just, like you said, Ross, get it started, right? Get the applicant started.
Yeah. I mean, obviously you need to have a job, right? Like a job is a must if you're looking to rent a place, unless there are circumstances where you have a lot of money coming in from other sources and you can show that you're paying 6 months, a year in advance. If you've got a disability or if you're retired, or there's ways that you can show additional supplemental income, going through a divorce, different ways where you can show that. I mean, we did basically just touch on if you're new to the country. And I feel bad for people that are new to the country when they're developing credit. They might have an amazing job where they were a pharmacist or a doctor or coming from another country where they have an amazing education. They're having to start off soon. So, I mean, take into consideration, landlords, the quality of people that are coming from other countries as well too. I think it's something that we should all be open-minded to in our society. Parents, right? Who's your best co-signer? If you don't think you have the best opportunity, then maybe if you've got a really good relationship with your mom and dad, then they could be wonderful co-signers, guarantors on that first place that you're going to be renting or buying. But at the end of the day, there are options out there, and this is why you reach out to people like Andrew and myself, so that we can give you options and look at all of your different choices as you're getting started. Or if you've decided you just don't want to own anymore, or you're at a point in your life where you're downsizing and you don't want to be a homeowner anymore. You just want to rent. You just want to rent. So,
right.
All are good options.
Yeah. Continuing down the, preparing yourself to be a great tenant. We touched on this kind of jokingly in one of our earlier episodes. Don't go get a pet. Don't go and, get a dog and some cats and stuff like that, and then go and try to find a rental, right? You're just setting yourself up for an uphill battle, because
big old dog. Yeah.
As a landlord myself, we own a few investor properties. I don't want cats. I don't want, I'm okay with dogs in my properties. I've dog proofed them. I don't personally like cats. So, if they got cats, I'm going to probably look, it's a negative mark as far as I'm concerned. Right. And if I've got a better applicant or another applicant, equal applicant, I should say, that doesn't have any pets, I'm going to lean in that direction. Right?
I'm going to go the other direction on you for 1 second there, just for 1 second. So I'm also currently renting out one of my places, and the demand for places with pets right now is extremely high.
Oh, I agree. I'm not saying that's not the case.
If you are a landlord and you're cool with pets and you're pet friendly, then market your place for saying, yes, we do allow dogs. Yes, we do allow cats, because not only is it a nice thing to do, there's also a huge demand for that, and you could be getting a very good quality of tenant. That's just, I'm just going to play the other side of it just for a second, but I couldn't agree more with you. When you're entering, don't go out and get that dog. One thing that you and I touched on before the show was the new Tenancy Act, right? And then without digging too deep into it, once you do take possession of that place, you need to understand that you have more rights now than the owner. There are certain privileges that you now have that the owner doesn't have anymore now that you've taken possession of that dwelling.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And that gets into just your rights and responsibilities as a tenant in Ontario, right? And so if you're going down that road, you're going down the tenant road, familiarize yourself with the Landlord Tenant Act, right? Go onto the Landlord Tenant Board, look up the act, read about what your responsibilities are and your rights, right? And again, kind of changing gears just a little bit here, but one of the things that is most common that we see is landlords trying to evict tenants just so they can raise rents, right? Which is not allowed. And they'll use things like the most common one we're seeing right now, because these are the rules, is the only way that you're able to evict a tenant is if they haven't been paying, they're significantly damaging the property, or you or an immediate family member is going to be moving in the property for personal use, right? And so that's the one they go to. They say, oh, well, I'm going to be moving into the property, or my mom is going to be moving into the property, so you have to get out. And in my personal experience, 90% of the time, that's a lie. It's not true. They're not doing that, because then they turned around and they re-rented. We had one of our clients then go back to the landlord tenant board, show that they re-rented it and they kicked them out, and the landlord tenant board fined the tenants ended up getting $4,500 back, which that sounds okay, except for the fact that their rent, because their rent at the time was significantly below market rents, they were down about $500 a month, right? Or out about $500 a month. So that $4,500 didn't cover them much. But one of those things is, they can't, a landlord can't just come along and say, I want you out, right? I'm moving out, so I'll give you 60 days. No, they have to actually file the proper forms through the landlord tenant board, and you don't have to leave until you have received those documents from the landlord tenant board, and you've got notice from the landlord tenant board that yes, you need to move, right? So as Canadians, oftentimes, we're too polite and we say, I don't want to be a pain, I'll just move. I don't want it to be awkward, I'll just move. Listen, I mean, I appreciate that, and it sounds great, and yeah, I appreciate you don't want that awkwardness, but for that little bit of awkwardness once a month, it's gonna save you $500, $600, $700 a month, as market rents have skyrocketed as well, right? So I digress. Go back, familiarize yourself with the Landlord Tenant Act and know what your rights are, and also what your responsibilities are as well, right?
Really well said, Andrew.
And that goes both ways for landlords as well, right?
Well, exactly. And I mean, from a tenant standpoint, make sure you're making your monthly payments every month. Noise complaints, that's something that can also get you kicked out. Obviously, you want to make sure that you're taking good care of the property. You're looking to keep a clean rap sheet, right? Like a landlord has every opportunity. If you're showing that you're not consistently paying your payments every month, then they basically could turn around and say, we're going to file to have you removed from here. And the alternative could be, like Andrew just said, is where prices could be going up significantly, right? So where you're currently spending, maybe you and your family are there and it's $2,200, $2,300. Well, something even remotely similar could be an extra $300-$400 a month. And if you're already on a tight budget, so please prioritize your payments. That a roof over your head is almost, I would argue it's number one, right? Yeah, we got to put food in our bellies, but we need a roof over our heads. So just be careful. So just to recap, guys, when you are looking to rent, there's a rental application you can fill in, credit scores. You can do that through Credit Karma, through help me out here.
You can go directly to Equifax's website.
Equifax, thank you. Then you're also going to want to get references. You need a first and last just to get you started. A lot of people are asking for 3-4 months in advance for rent. Which,
by the way, they're not technically allowed to do, right? Landlords are not allowed to ask for rent up front. Sometimes tenants will offer it upfront because they're offsetting new to the country, don't have a job yet, don't have a credit established yet, et cetera. Any reason why they're missing kind of like, one of the spokes in the wheel, so to speak. They might say, well, I'll give you a year upfront, right? Or something like that. But it's not something that landlords, I apologize, are able to request. You can't say, I'll rent it to you, but you have to give me this, right?
And one thing we looked up just before the show started as well too is just to give you peace of mind, renters, is that as of 2021, rent can be raised up to 1.5%. So you don't want to be in a discussion with a landlord where they're telling you, oh, they can up it a couple $100 a month, when get out the calculator and take your current rent and times it by 1.15%, and that's as much as they're allowed to increase it for this year. It does go up and down from year to year, so just keep an eye on that. And that's as much as it can be rent. So there's a lot of people out there that think that a landlord can just raise as much as they want, and that is not the truth or the law.
Yeah, not in Ontario, anyways. Those days are long gone.
Well, I think this has been a good episode for educating our renters out there, wouldn't you say, Andrew?
Yeah, for sure. Wrapping up, if you can stay at home and keep saving, save that rent, save that $2,000 a month. Because, let's be honest with ourselves, right? Like, right now in Milton, like $1,800 is going to get you a basement apartment, right? $1,500 to $1,800, that's basement apartment territory, right? North of 1,800, you might get a one bedroom, but that's going to take you to 2,000 or so. A two bedroom is going to be around 2,200, right? And a house is going to be, 3,000 or more, maybe, right?
It was pretty similar throughout all of Halton. So whether you're looking in Milton, Oakville, Burlington, you're going to see it can get pretty steep pretty quick, and
multiply
not necessarily the best lifestyle for your family long term either, right? So
yeah, for sure. Multiply that monthly rent by 12 and put it into perspective as to how much you could save over the year towards a down payment. Yeah, it might take you a few more years at home, right? But in the long run, you'll thank yourself.
Couldn't agree more.
Couldn't
agree more.
There you
awesome. Go. Well, that was a great episode. I will see you for our next one.
All right, sounds good.